Clearly, animals know more than we and think a great deal more than we know. Welcome to Grounding Journey. I'm Chris Greer. As a 40-something mom, wife, business owner, yoga lover, and longtime spiritual seeker, I've been craving deeper conversations, the kind that arise from connections with other women who are on a similar journey to mine. My purpose with Grounding Journey is to provide a space where we can have real, fulfilling, and sacred conversations. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to today's episode of Grounding Journey. I have a special guest with me, Corine Graham, and she is enlightened animal. She's an animal communicator. And her story is really neat. She started out when she was young, pushed it aside because her family said it was strange. She focused her life on the more science-based careers with animals. She always knew she had a calling and a pull to be with animals, but did it very left brain. And in her 50s, she had kind of her opening where she became to understand that communication was and energy work was really her true higher calling. So she knew she'd always been called to animals, but didn't know how. And I'm excited to have this as part of our modality series where we're really digging into those things that you've always wondered about, but aren't really sure how they work or what they are. And they seem a little weird and a little different. So you just stay away from them. So my intention with the modality series is to really give you a personal view of it, give you an understanding of it, and so that you can decide if it's somewhere you want to go or not. So I'm excited to have our guest with us today, Corine. So I'm so excited to have you here. I think talking about animals and animal communication in your journey, it's near and dear to my heart. And I really am so excited. And I think our listeners are going to really enjoy that today. So I know I've given the formal introduction of what you do, who you are, but I'd really love to know, like, who are you really? Who's inside of you?
So, and thank you for having me. Uh, I, um, I guess I would say, so I am a multilingual, multicultural, uh, open-minded adventurer. I've lived in many countries all over the world. I currently live in France, in southern
Nice.
France, and uh, and have grown up all over the world. And I think it created kind of like a little bit of a gypsy personality, and very open-minded to all people, to all cultures, to all genders, sexualities. I'm just a really open person who just enjoys meeting all different types of people, and feel like I'm, very compassionate. I obviously have a great love for nature and everything that's living, all animals, and want to save them all. And just love spending time in nature and being around animals and communing with them, and just being on this wonderful big blue ball.
I love that. I love that you use the word gypsy because I love to think I have a little gypsy spirit in me too. And it's funny, the last couple of people I've had on the podcast have all been travelers, and I'm such a huge traveler. Actually, like we're recording, but my husband and my son and I are all leaving for Peru for 2 weeks and like 4 days. Um,
Oh,
so when you said travel lots of countries, I'm like, this is becoming really my circle again of where I'm meeting all these
wonderful.
great travelers. So I love that you're in France. How long have you been in France?
We've been in France for 17 years now.
Okay, nice.
So, and before then, we came over from California, but I've lived all over the world. I've lived in Germany, I've lived in Turkey, I've lived, all over France, in the UK, and all over the US, actually, probably at least half the states I've lived in. So, and then always and traveled all over the world as well. But I've lived in many, many locations. So, yeah.
Nice.
eternal
Well, we'll
travel.
have to have you back when I do my travel series because I'm doing the modality series and then I'm doing a travel series. So we'll have to have you come
Definitely.
talk to us about where you've traveled and your favorite places. But today we're here to talk about animal communication. And I love that. And normally on my podcast recently, I should say not normally, but recently, my dog Faith has made appearances on every episode. So we'll see if we make it through this one without her making her date or her shared conversation with us. But today I'm joined by Tomcat. And anybody who follows me on Instagram will see I share about my animals periodically. And what I loved about, and I shared this with you before we got started, but I just want to share the synchronicity because I think our journeys are all so much filled with synchronicity. Um, Today, so Tomcat, he's 11. He is our son's cat. We've had him since he was 4 weeks old, and he was in a really bad incident today a year ago. And so, what I loved when I was interested in talking with you, I just invited you to schedule a call instead of kind of going through the full process because I thought it'd be really neat to chat. And I loved that you did not know and you scheduled for today. And when I look at the clock, it's about the time we found him. So I think it's very, like I said, there's a lot of synchronicity in the universe when we just kind of open to it. And Tom's never in here when I'm recording. And if you could see the video, he's like sacked out on the stool behind me, and I'm just so grateful he's still here with us. The incident did leave him blind, and that was probably 2 days that we didn't know if he was going to make it, and then he
Mhm.
rallied like a tramp. And I'm so grateful because I didn't want his story to end the way it would have, and now he's more lovey and more snuggly and more vocal, and it's amazing how he's adapted to being blind. So that's been, my recent journey with our animals. But you have a neat story about how you were open to animal communication young and it shut down on you. And I think that happens to a lot of us. So let's dig into what it was like as a kid, because I'm sure there's a lot of us who didn't know, we have a lot of abilities as kids because we don't know we're not supposed to. And that's kind of what you
Definitely.
expressed with us. So talk to me about what it was like as a kid who could communicate with animals.
Sure. Well, actually, it's nothing special. All of us can communicate with animals. Animals communicate with words, pictures, and thoughts, and feelings, and we do as well. But the problem is because we develop language, we end up relying on language, and we end up not using our other senses. But we all have this ability. It's just kind of been hidden and pushed down. But with practice, everybody can communicate with animals. And so when I was little, I was always surrounded by animals. I was an only child, very drawn to animals, and bugged my parents constantly until they just kind of let me have as many as I wanted, as long as I took care of all of them. So my room did turn into a little bit of a petting zoo. And I would spend my time, because I was an only child and I was an introvert as well. So I didn't have a lot of friends. I spent all my time just having conversations with them and talking to them and finding out what they wanted. And to me, it was completely normal. But then what happened, and happens to so many young children, is the people that are around you, your family and teachers and everything else, start telling you, oh, that's cute, but that's just in your mind, or you're just
Mhm.
making things up. That's just, it's just to keep you entertained and that sort of thing. And I started to realize that, oh gosh, people think I'm weird. And I was already an introvert and very self-conscious. And so on top of that, when people were kind of telling you, no, 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 you shouldn't be doing that. That's really weird. Stop talking to animals. Why don't you go out and make some friends? Um, I did as so many children do, and just said, well, maybe it is in my head, and pushed it aside, but always with that extreme need to be near animals, and so drawn to
Mhm.
them. So I did, again, what a lot of children do, in that situation, is say, okay, well, maybe I want to be a veterinarian, or maybe I want to do. So I kind of went the left brain route, and you know, just kind of studied animals, and went to university to be a veterinarian, and found out I couldn't do that because I was too much of an empath.
For
And
sure.
once I realized that, oh, you have to hurt them, and then
Mm,
sometimes they die. And I was like, oh yeah, I can't do this. So I veered off and went more into research, and genetics and nutrition, and very left brain. And then for, gosh, at around 20 years, always followed this path of being around animals, working in and around animals, but always very left brain science related. So, dog training or breeding or working on a farm, when I wasn't vegan, um,
mm,
learning behavior and all those things. And every time going, well, this is nice, and I love being around animals, but this isn't it. And then I change, and
mm,
then this went on for at least 20 years. And then at some point, and I think it was just my path to take, I needed to have all these lessons. And I think I also needed to have all the learning that I had to get where I am today. I had one of my dogs, at 4 years old, got lymphoma after
mm.
she got her recall vaccine. And the vet confirmed to me that it was directly related to her getting vaccinated. And that was just like a huge shock to my system. And so then I started down the natural path, and I started going, okay, well, what's going on? Everything I've learned doesn't make any sense anymore. This strict left brain science is failing me. I have a very young dog who's dying. This isn't right. This isn't normal. And I was following what science says and what the vets say. So I put back on my learning cap, went back to school, and learned everything I could about natural wellness, about
Mm.
feeding my animals naturally, about chemicals in the environment, about what pesticides do, about where we lived and what was going on, in the grass that my dogs were
Yes.
munching on, and then learning all about homeopathy and herbs and alternative medicine and things that were much kinder to the body and weren't constantly assaulting them, finding out about titers instead of vaccinations, learning about massage therapy and acupressure and all the alternative modalities, which I had kind of been close to because I was like, oh no, I have to be this science left brain person. So that was kind of my intermediate path to really opening up spiritually. And that went on for several years. And so then I was coaching people and telling people how to take care of their pets naturally, and trying to get the word out that over vaccination is dangerous, and here's what you can do. You can titer test, and here's how you can, if your dog needs to go to the vet, here are things that you can put in place to help protect the microflora and help protect their system if they're on antibiotics, and et cetera. And so that went on for a while. And then I got to a point, because I was kind of in this intermediate stage between very left brain science and more right brain uh, spirituality, and really going more into intuitive stuff. So it's kind of one foot in the door and one foot out. And I got to a point in my life that I've never been religious. My family's not religious. My mother's actually really anti-religion, and she's like, oh, like, that's evil. And so this is kind of how I was indoctrinated, like, oh, it's bad and it only produces bad things. And so to me, spirituality was just like, one step towards
Hmm.
Catholicism. So I was very
Gotcha.
wary of it. But I got to a point in my life, when I turned 50, about when I turned 50, that something just clicked in my mind. And I said, I need to explore my spirituality, and what else is out there. And I started feeling like there was more, that the universe was bigger than I imagined it, and that there was more out there than in my little left brain box, or what I
Hmm.
could see in front of my face. So I started doing a lot of self-development, meditation, a lot of self-hypnosis, and a lot of work on myself, and allowing my intuition to develop, and just being open to things that couldn't be proven to me, and just seeing where it took me. And It was during this evolution of my life that I was in a self-hypnosis, and I was in my mind laboratory. I was in, and just kind of focusing and working on myself and positivity and things that I wanted, law of attraction, that sort of thing. And all of a sudden, I just got this really, really strong energetic download, is all I can call it. I just felt heat come into me, come out my hands. And very strongly, I just felt so hot and I was uncomfortable. I tried to open my eyes and I couldn't. I was really in it. I was just like, it was like, no, you need to listen right now. And I very clearly heard, you are meant to heal animals with your
Mm.
energy.
Mhm.
And I woke up. Well, I didn't wake up, I wasn't asleep, but I opened my eyes. I was able to open my eyes and I sat there and I thought, I need to follow this. This means something. I don't know what it means. I had never done animal communication. I'd never hired a communicator. I didn't believe in it. I was, that was just not in my, was not in my wheelhouse. And I thought, I just need to follow this. It was too strong. I need
Mm.
to listen to what is coming into me, and I just need to follow it. But I wasn't going to force it. I thought, okay, I've been given a sign. I'll now look, and if something comes to me, then I'll know. And 2 days later, I kid you not, on my computer, I opened my computer. I had not done any searches for animal communication, energy healing, and this person appeared. I don't know how she appeared. She appeared in my feed on Facebook. I didn't know her. I'd never heard of her. And she had a school for animal communication and energy healing.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
I felt drawn to her immediately. And I said, I need to get in touch with this person right now. And I contacted her and I explained what was going on. And she felt exceptionally drawn to me. And she said, this is where you're meant to be. This is your Dharma. And
Mhm.
without even hesitating, and I just jumped in to work with her, and she became my mentor, someone who had been doing this for 30 years. And she just said, this comes so naturally to you. You have this natural gift and you need to follow this. This is really important. And I 100% was like, yes, this is finally where I was meant to be. It was finally where I thought, this is animal related and I don't have that, but I'm not sure if this is right. It just was like, it just sat with me. And to the point where a lot of people who go into communication and healing at first feel uncomfortable telling people, and especially someone like me who's so left brain and has a lot of science related friends, I didn't have that. I just went out and said, this is what I'm doing now. And I felt
Mm.
so comfortable in it. And it was like, no, this is who I've always been this person. This person was just hidden and
Mm.
pushed aside. And I recently had a talk with my aunt, and she said, don't you know you've always been able to communicate with animals? And I said, no. And she said, well, I knew it. And she said,
Mm.
you've done things. And she brought up situations where, and I don't remember them, that as
Mhm.
an adult, I went and talked to a friend of hers, animals, that they were having a difficult situation and not getting along. And then afterwards they got along. And I said, I don't remember these situations you're talking about. And she remembered them because they really were, she said, I was so struck by what you were doing that it's always stayed with me. But I
Mm.
apparently at that point in time in my life wasn't ready to see
Mm.
through my own eyes what I was doing. And so I have no recollection of what I did. Um, and so now because I love learning, in continuing education, and I continue to hone my skills, but now I do communication, not only with living animals, but with animals who have passed, with
Mhm.
lost animals. I do medical intuition for people who are, the vet is stumped or there's something they can't figure out what's wrong with their animal. I can do medical scans now, and do energy healing with many different modalities, tapping and and hands-on energy work using universal energy and acupressure and all different types of energetic and healing modalities. That really is what I'm meant to do. And communication is essential to do that, because you need to talk to the animal to find out where to start, and what is bothering them, and where to look, and what's going on emotionally and physically in their life, to help you on the path, instead of just going in blindly and hoping that your energy goes where it needs to go. So that's my journey.
Well, I love that and thank you for sharing it with us,
You're
because there were
welcome.
so many elements of it that I think were just interesting to kind of dig into, about how you were so left brain, and we hold on to that. And you said you needed to open to things that couldn't be proven to you. And I thought
Mhm.
that was great, because that's such a leap of faith, to let go of everything you've been taught, everything
Yeah.
that everybody around you is agreeing with, and just being open to something you can't prove. And that was really neat to me. Like, that was one of the comments you said that I wrote down, and that you knew you were being called to something with animals, and digging into
Mhm.
that, searching for it, because I think that's a huge part of every journey, is being okay in that faith of, it doesn't have to be proven to me, but I
Mhm.
feel that calling. And I think that's really neat that you experienced that.
Yeah. And I think everybody has a soul contract, and everybody is put on this planet to do certain things. But some people find out very young, and start on their path very young, and others, like myself, um, have to take a very windy road.
Me.
And I guess I'm a Beatles fan, the long and winding road, and and follow. And I think that for me, um, I needed to do all the other things, because they now actually help. Um, I can now help my clients even more, because depending on what I find, I then have those other tools in my toolbox, if
Hmm.
needed, to say, well, maybe you should look into this, or maybe you should try this. So I think that for my particular path, that's what I needed to do. And I mean, it took a long time. I'm in my 50, I'm 53 now. So it took me, 50 years to get to where I was supposed to go. But I don't have any regrets, because I feel like this is the journey that I was supposed to take. And I've now landed in the exact spot that I needed to land in, to be able to do the work that I was put on this planet to do. And I wouldn't have been prepared 10 or 15 years ago to do that.
Well, and I think that, using the analogy of the long and windy road, because I don't remember if I had a conversation or if this was a podcast that we released, but there's that, you get stuck and you're like, oh, I'm not on my path and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. But you're a perfect example of, sometimes our path isn't a straight line. Every element that you go is part of your path, even though it doesn't always feel like it's getting you somewhere. It's that experience, it's that tool for your toolbox, it's whatever it you're gathering from that, as long as you're not numb to seeing what you're learning.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, you can be off because you didn't pay attention and you were just nose down, too worried about
Yeah.
that you weren't on your path, that you didn't learn the lesson. But even that part of the experience is part of your path, because you eventually come around to it. So I
Yeah.
think
And
that,
I also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I also think that sometimes if we're searching too hard, we
Mm-hmm.
won't, the doors won't open because we want it too badly. And I
Mm-hmm.
found that for me, when I let go of that need, when I let go of that need to know, what am I supposed to do? That at that point, when I was just accepting, okay, if something comes, it will come, and it will come when it's meant to be. And that's really at the point in my life where things did start to appear and start to change, because I let go of that that need of that, even though, you call it a need, it's actually resistance in a way, because you want it so
Mm.
badly that you're holding on too tight. And it's almost like, you're pushing a door that has a door stopper on the other side, and you can't get it open
Mm-hmm.
because you want it so badly. And in reality, all you need to do is pull the door instead of push,
Yes.
and I think that
I think I did do an episode recently that we talked about surrender, and it was a great conversation because we say so often, let go. And that just feels too like the more you say let go, the more you hold on tight and you constrict. Um,
exactly.
but that surrender of just like, okay, I don't know what this is leading me to. And it sounds a lot like what you did is you knew you were supposed to be in some platform with animals. So you just kept exploring and digging in, but feeling that call and not holding on to one, I'm supposed to be a veterinarian, or I'm supposed to do this, or I'm supposed to do that with animals. And you were really in flow. And maybe sometimes when we're in flow, it doesn't feel like we're flowing. Um,
It's
but
very rocky flow
being,
sometimes.
yeah, you're in the rapids, but there's definitely that flow, and surrender is how the long and winding road becomes an interesting song, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And I think a lot of the different side paths that I took, some of them that really didn't add anything to my toolbox. Many did, but some didn't. And I think those were moments where I was like, I need to work with animals. Let me see. Let me look at the list of animal related jobs. Oh, I'll try this. And those were always the worst ones, because I
Mm,
was then just hunting and pecking and trying so hard to find what I was supposed to be doing, that those were actually ended up being the the worst side journeys, in the sense that I didn't really get anything out of them. And I can't even say that those really advanced me on my path. And it was definitely more when I just kind of went with it and said, oh, I'll try this. But the flow definitely happened at the most, and opened up this journey, this current iteration of my life, when I really completely surrendered and said,
mm-hmm.
okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Um, if I'm meant to be doing something with animals, it will appear when it's supposed to appear. And I just completely let go. And that day is when the door just flew open.
And I think that that's something we all have to get to that point where we're ready to surrender, where we're
Mhm.
ready to say, okay, I don't know what's best for me. God, universe, higher power, lead me. And so you say it was that day. And we all, I think, I don't want to say we all, but I think there is the opportunity that we have that moment. And sometimes we see it and we're like, oh, yeah, that was that moment. And sometimes it just happens and we miss seeing it, but it still happens. So, what do you use to support yourself to stay in that space of surrender, to stay in that space of flow? Does that make sense to ask?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I have a very s- strong, large self-care routine that really I focus on daily, and I never miss, no matter what, even if
Mm,
I'm sick or busy. I give myself a certain amount of time every morning, and I will not start my day until I do this certain routine, to just ground myself,
mm-hmm,
reconnect with Pachamama, Mother Earth, and
mm,
and feel the roots at the bottom of my feet, and clear off any energies that aren't mine, and let them go back into the earth and transform, so I'm not carrying other people's energies or any negative energy that attached to me the previous day. Um,
mm,
because that tends to then influence who we how we go forward in that day. I clear my chakras, and I also go into self hypnosis and just ground, calm, and connect with my spirit guides, who I have been able to meet. They were gracious enough to introduce themselves to me, and I have four of them. And so I sit with them every morning as well, and ask if there's anything I need to know for that day, or any guidance, or downloads that I need. And I just kind of go through this every morning. And I live with, well, I live with my husband as well, but I live with 6 dogs. I was going to say I live with 6 dogs, and I thought, oh, that would be not, I need to mention I do
Mention
have
him
a
first.
husband. But my dogs will come, and they know, and they will meditate with me, or they will try to get me to put my hands on them if they need energy. And so they partake in this ritual that I have every morning. And my husband knows the door's closed to the bedroom. Don't go in and bother Corine. She's in her place. And I found and then I also have a gratefulness journal. Once I'm done with all my rituals, I do write 3 things every morning that I'm grateful for. And it could be really simple things, like I look out the window and I see a beautiful puffy cloud, or I look over the mountains because we live in the Pyrenees, and I see the snow on the mountain, and that brings me joy. Or a bird flies by, or grateful for my dogs, or for having a roof over my head, warm water, really simple things, but things that bring me joy. And if during the day I find that I'm having, because we all do, we try to stay in a good zone, but we have life, and things happen, and I get frustrated or whatever. And so to bring me back and lift my positivity, I go on a rampage of appreciation, where I just will sit and look around, and even if I'm in my office, and I'll just look and go, yeah, I love my plant is so beautiful. Look at how much she's growing. She makes me so happy. And oh, look at this beautiful picture that someone drew for me of my beloved pet who's no longer. And I just keep looking around and finding gratitude and appreciation for, I'm so grateful that I have a pen here that has ink in it, that I can write my notes down. And I do it until I feel my energy and my vibration come back up, and then I continue my day. I never try to stay longer than a few seconds in a low vibrational state. And I find it helps me with my flow. It helps keep my creativity and my intuitive abilities open. And it also is really great for relationships, because we rarely fight anymore. Because if I feel that I'm annoyed, or he's annoyed with me, I just start appreciating things around me, or even him, and it passes so quickly. So relationship advice: go on a rampage of appreciation if you have an argument with your husband or significant other, not necessarily husband, but partner, life partner. It works wonders. And I've found that the more I really keep myself in this state, the more doors open for me as far as business. Opportunities arrive at my doorstep that I can't even imagine. And life just flows easily, and my creative juices flow, and my intuition is so much stronger. My abilities, my communication abilities, my energy is so much more powerful. As long as I keep, I have to keep this ritual. I find it really important. So.
Well, I love two of the things. I mean, I loved everything you said, but two of the things that really stuck out for me is that you said your animals come, and the room that you're in that I can see you in right now, is that where you do your daily practice?
No, this is my office.
Okay. Well, it's funny because it's an unusual blue, because obviously audio listeners can't hear it, but that's the same color as my Zendan. And so when you got on the
Oh,
call with me, I'm like, oh, that's like, I've never seen anybody have that paint color. And whenever I'm on a Zoom call, people are like, oh, I love that color. Um, but
yeah.
my
No, this is
cat,
because this is also where I do my healings and my communication. So I needed to create a space that just felt very welcoming and warm. And I look forward to coming into this space. Obviously, this is my office because my computer is here as well, but I have specific types of plants. I have very specific artwork, and things that just keep me in a really zen place. And this color I was drawn to this color, even though it's not ideal for Zoom because it's very dark. And so I have to use a lot of lighting. But that wasn't my primary reason for putting this color on the walls. But I think that's important too. I think your space is so important, and it
Mm-hmm.
affects your energy.
It
Um,
does. Well, I know because my office used to be, and when you see me looking, it's because I'm looking into that other room. My office used to be in that room, and this was our dining room. And we'd lived here like 8 years and eaten in here once. So I finally told my husband, I need my computer out of my yoga space so that they're
mhm,
separated. And so now I have my Zen den, which is my yoga, my meditation area, and then my office is across the hall from it. But the minute, and I sometimes do go a day or two without going in and doing yoga and meditation. I'll meditate in bed before I get up instead of coming downstairs. But my cat, the minute I walk in there, now remember, he's blind. He can't
mm,
see me. He has really great hearing, though. And I think that he knows the moment that energy starts flowing because he'll come in and he doesn't sleep in there because I've got a couch in there and he'll sleep in there all day if I've been in there doing yoga and meditation. But if I haven't done it that day, he'll sleep in my office or he'll sleep in my son's
mm,
room or something. But he definitely, I can't tell you how many times I've come out of meditation and he's in my lap, and I didn't even know him. He came in and I love that when you talk about your animals because he is
yeah,
definitely a cat who loves Reiki and he will come ask for
yeah.
it.
Well, they're so animals are so intuitive naturally, and also have much bigger auric fields than we do,
Mm,
and feel energy a lot more than we do. And actually, to the point where any energy modality that requires forcing of energy, which is sometimes required with humans because we tend to block, we tend to identify with our problems. Like, I am a person who has migraines, or I am a person who has cancer. We become that identity.
mm-hmm,
And because of that, we tend to, even though if consciously we want to heal, sometimes subconsciously we don't because it would change our identity. So we tend to have certain energy modalities for humans are a little bit more forceful in the pushing of energy. And you can't do that with animals. They will leave the room because their energy is so open and they're so accepting of it that if you try to force it into them, it's actually a repellent. So they
mm-hmm.
like the milder, calmer, kinder energy modalities. And meditation is a form. I mean, you're not necessarily thinking I'm transmitting energy, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
part of the meditation. And animals are naturally drawn to that. And I've always told people, even before I was in communication, meditate with your animals, leave the door ajar and allow them to come. Don't force them, but leave
Mm-hmm.
it open and allow them to come in if they want. Certain animals will actually climb up in your lap and want to be
Mm-hmm.
right up against you. Others will just lay in your general area or in the room, but they all just relax and they absorb it and they love it. And I think it's so good. It really deepens the relationship that you have with your
Mm-hmm.
pets. And it's passive, it's not anything that you have to force or try or train. It's so natural for them. And I think meditation is one area where we just kind of let our guard down and let our blocks
Yes.
down because we're just in this zone. And because of that, then the energy just flows and they feel it and they love it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's beautiful. And um, it's like a way of proving that energy exists and that they can feel it, because why would they be drawn to you if you're just sitting there? Because you can sit on the couch and watch TV and they're not necessarily drawn to lay on you or come near you,
Right.
um, because that's not a meditative calm. You have monkey mind going on, you're watching and you're
Yes.
thinking, but as soon as you let go of all this thought and kind of go into neutral, then all of a sudden the animals are drawn to you. Even animals in the wild. uh, I've had birds come and land on me, when if
Mm.
and um, you know situations that you go, that's not possible. And then I think, I am Dr. Doolittle. I knew it all along. Everyone told me I was crazy, but I knew it.
Yeah.
The first time my husband saw it, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm not doing anything." But
I love that.
yeah.
Um, my first husband, because as I mentioned, I kind of dabble just a little bit, like it's never intentional, but I think when you're talking about gratitude, I often just have this dialogue going on in my head because it's a better dialogue than the monkey mind. And so
Mhm.
I'll see birds and I'm like, "Oh, hello, beautiful bird," or "Hello, pretty horse." And we were at an event and it was a historical reenactment, and were on the field, and the horse was facing away from me. So I was at the back side of the horse. And I was just like, "Those are such beautiful horses." And I'm having this dialogue in my head with myself about the horse. And the horse literally like jumps and flips 180 degrees and's looking at me and this crowd of 300 people. And my first husband was like, "Are you talking to the horse again?" "Maybe." He's like, "Stop. Somebody's going to get hurt." So I totally relate to you saying that, and I was just like, "Oh, okay." But it's
But
fun
it's
to,
wonderful when you get that. It's wonderful. I think
right.
it's a wonderful confirmation of what you've always thought in your mind was possible. And then when you
Mhm.
have an interaction like that, you go, okay, yeah, I have confirmation. This isn't in my head. This is real.
Well, and
Um,
I think that ties in where you said in the very beginning that everybody has the ability. And it ties in you talking about gratitude, because I'm not trying to communicate with animals,
mhm.
but I'm trying to show gratitude and appreciation for them and not get stuck in the monkey mind. And you'll get those. And this is where I think you have to be open to like the sound that you hear back of like, "Hi," isn't just your mind being crazy. It is.
It isn't.
Yeah, and I think
It isn't.
it's a little
We
weird for
always
some
think
people.
so. We always think, oh, I'm just making this up. But once you let that go and you realize, because sometimes you get things that, that don't make any sense. And like the other day, I spoke to a cat, and the person told me this is a street cat that is really small and really frail and has a lot of injuries. And the woman said, he's so unusual because he's really small and he's really handicapped, but I put him with the colony of cats who normally don't like new cats and will hiss and fight. And he goes up to every one of the cats and puts his nose on their nose and gives them a little kiss, and the cats don't do anything. So she wanted to know more about him.
Mm,
And I talked to him, and he told me that he was there to teach them peace. He was the peacemaker, and
mm.
that his name was Pajma. Now, where am I going to get that from?
Right?
I looked up online afterwards. I said, what does that even mean? And I couldn't find anything. And so I thought, I'm just going to tell her. And she said, oh, that's so interesting. And as she was talking to me, he came into the room and sat on her. And she said, Pajma. And he looked right into her eyes. And I
Mm,
said, that's his name. I said,
yeah.
And since then, she's told me that he comes when she calls that name, and before he didn't come to her.
Mm,
So that's another confirmation. I think that sometimes and he had a very deep voice. Like I saw him, he felt like a little tiny Indian man to me with like a really deep voice.
mm.
It was so cute. And Pajma makes sense. It's kind of, I mean, it sounds kind of like it could be Indian. I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but yeah. And so I think that, at first we go so left brain and we hear things. And that's
Mm,
something that when you practice animal communication, that all the teachers that are out there, because there's many now that teach it, will say is just write what you hear,
mm,
because it's real. And you just at first you say, oh, I'm making this up, and then you start getting confirmation, um, that from owners or other people's, that will say, oh yeah, that, gosh, you just described my animal so perfectly, or oh, that makes so
mm-hmm.
much sense. And you build your confidence that way. because we've been told for so long that we make things up, that things, it's just your
Yes.
imagination. How many times have we heard that growing up? It's just your imagination. And in
Mm-hmm.
reality, it's not. Why would you make something up like that? It wouldn't make, um, there's no reason for you to make something up like that. But we've been told and indoctrinated into this, it's just your imagination for so long that we've now automatically, that's the first thing that our brain goes to is, this is not real, you're making it up. And in reality, we need to let that go and just flow with it, and amazing things happen, and the conversations are fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds great. I definitely have a dog I need you to talk to because,
Mhm.
it's funny. We have two dogs and a cat, and the cat and my dog, I chat with all the time. And my husband says that my dog's so easy, even he can hear her. But we have another dog who we love. Oh my gosh, we love Rex so much. But we're pretty sure Rex isn't his name and he doesn't speak English because, like, you call him, he doesn't come. And we actually make the joke that it's kind of like in the movie Men in Black, how there's that little alien, but he's got a whole body.
Mhm.
And so we
Yeah.
say that there's an alien in Rex's head and he's just here observing in a dog body. So
Ah, who
maybe we
knows,
do that.
who knows? Well, I have one that's actually, she's a funny story. I have 6 Australian Shepherds, and
Oh, I love Aussies.
and one of them, her name is Hexie, and she's 9 now. And I've always felt that she's kind of a loner. She doesn't really get along. She gets along with 2 of the other dogs. She's very particular. And now that I can communicate, well, I've always been able to communicate. Now that I know that I can talk to her, every day she comes to me and she says, "So when are we getting rid of the other dogs?" And I tell her, "Hexie, I love you, and there's plenty of things that I can modify in your life if you want, but that is not one of them." And in my classes, we meet once a week, and we exchange dogs, and every single person that has talked to Hexie, the very first thing they always tell me, "Well, I'm really confused because you have a lot of dogs." But the very first thing Hexie told me was, "I want to be alone." And I was like, yeah, that's Hexie. Every single person.
I
So
love
if
that.
that's not confirmation of how important that is to her, and I feel terrible because I'm like, this will never happen in your lifetime.
Right.
But she gets an E for effort because she tells me at least once a day,
I love that.
"So when is it going to be?" And I'm like, "Never." I was like, "Sorry, sweetheart. You know, sorry." But on top of it, she's one of the older ones. So it's like, she literally will be never because, the younger ones are going to outlive her. So
Yeah.
I feel bad, but at the same time, she doesn't want to leave us because I did ask her that. "Do you want another home?" And she's
Hmm.
like, "No, I want you, but I only want you." I was like, "Well, it's not a
Yeah.
possibility, sweetheart." So it's fun because sometimes you get these really, you end up learning, even though you know your own animals, um, there's certain things about them that little quirks or personality points that are just so much more fun when you can actually have a conversation with them. And you
Hmm.
really get to, and it helps also when you have issues, if you have compatibility issues or behavioral problems, or even physical problems. I had one of my girls last week went into renal failure, acute renal failure,
Mm.
after a tick bite. We have a
Oh.
tick-borne disease over here that I think it's Babesia in the States. In France, it's called pyroplasmosis, and it goes in, the parasite goes into the red blood cells and multiplies, and then they burst. And so they end up in renal failure and anemia, and a lot
Oh,
of them
wow.
can die. And I was taking her to the vet, um, first I did a medical scan on her and I felt stickiness in her blood. So I knew that there was something going on with her blood. And I told my vet, take a blood sample and look, because there's something going, it's in her blood, something. All I knew was that she had a high fever and she was really out of it. I hadn't
Hmm.
found a tick on her, so I didn't know it was that. But on the way to the vet, I communicated with her and I said, "Izzy, is this your time?" And she said, "No." She
Mm.
said, I'm courageous and I'm strong and I'll make it through this. And that is so reassuring as a pet owner to
Mm-hmm.
have that confirmation when you truly believe it,
Yeah.
because I would have not slept that night. I had to leave her on IV fluids in the emergency room. And
Mm-hmm.
in the past, that just meant sleepless nights and panic and worry and wondering what's going
Yeah.
on. And here I was like, I can sleep. I know she's fine. And I ran energy to her and I knew she was going to be fine. And it was because I was able to talk to her. And so I think it's, you know, I think it's so important because it really helps reassure us. And if she had told me it was time, I think I would have been able then to also process it, that, okay, her soul
Mm-hmm.
contract is done and she's done on this planet. She has other work to do, but it wasn't her time, which I'm so grateful for. And she's back home and doing wonderfully. But things like that to me just reinforce that I'm meant to be doing this
Mm-hmm.
because and even if I never had any clients, just to be able, it's not
To talk
even
to
it's
them.
not even to say, oh, I want to do this as a job. This is like, I need to do this. I need to talk to these animals. um it just it is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful that I finally arrived.
Yes, well, it's a beautiful story. And so I know our listeners are going to want to check you out. Where's the
Mhm.
best place that they can find you? Are you on a website, Facebook, Instagram? Where can they find you?
I am on all three. My website is enlightenedanimal.com. And my Facebook page is also Enlightened Animal. And so is my Instagram. So if you type in either Enlightened Animal on Facebook or Instagram, or enlightenedanimal.com for the website, you can find me. I post regularly tips and information on Facebook and Instagram, and then you can read about all my services and the different things that I offer on my website. And and because it's energy and communication, I work worldwide. I'm in France, but I work locally as well as with people all over the world. Um, that's the beauty of energy work and communication, is you don't have to have the animal right in front of you. So it's especially in these times, it's quite practical.
Yeah, well,
Where
that's
we,
awesome. And
yeah.
we'll have all the links to that on the show notes. So if you didn't catch that, you can always check out groundingjourney.com and you'll see the episode where we'll have all the links to you. We'll have your bio and a photo and stuff like that so people can find more about you. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. And thank you. You know, we love our animals so much and they hold such a big part of our heart for such a short time that it's always good to know there's people out there who can really talk with them, communicate with us, and help. Because I had that experience myself personally after losing one, of being able to chat with her and know she's okay, and that brings us peace. And I just had a friend recently who was telling me he was really struggling because he'd lost his dog. So it's great that you can help people with that. So
Yeah.
I know that people will be reaching out to you. And we're going to record a bonus episode. So everybody listening, if you're not done hearing our conversation, we'll have another episode released in a couple of days where we're doing our bonus episode. So thank you so much for being here with me today. It was a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really nice. Thanks.
Thanks for being part of my journey. I would love to be part of yours. If you're interested in being a guest on Grounding Journey, I'd love to hear from you. Please visit my website at groundingjourney.com and you'll see the link to apply.